What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm uploading onto my channel, then feel free to subscribe, and you can also offer suggestions on topics and characters and storylines and whatnot that we can have discussions on later on in this channel. Oh my god, guys, I gotta tell you, after going through Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns, dude, the Green Lantern mythos is amazing. Oh my god, it's insane. I understand why so many of you guys love Green Lantern stuff now. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover the second story arc of the Green Lanterns, and this one deals with the new lantern ring, the Phantom Ring. And this is actually pretty badass. This is pretty cool. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised this never happened before. I'm surprised there's never been a lantern ring like this. But before we dive into this, let's do a little bit of catching up for everybody who's new to Comics Explained. I'm so excited to do this story. I'm so excited to do this. So with regards to the Green Lanterns themselves, Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, they're designed to be the entry-level Green Lanterns to the Green Lantern mythos. In DC Comics, and I was figuring this out, really learning this as I was running over the events of Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern is designed to basically provide stories for the ongoing readers, the ones who have been part of Jeff Johns' mythos or read the entirety of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run from beginning up until the current moment. Green Lanterns is designed to allow new people to just segue into the mythos and quite literally learn about the entire landscape of Green Lanterns as Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz are learning about it. And so what we do with this is we initially pick up with the aftermath of the first story arc. Now, in that first story arc, that largely dealt with the idea of the Red Lanterns returning, the idea of Atrocitus trying to conquer Earth, and more or less bending everybody on Earth to his will by way of a hell tower, more or less, by way of a giant tower that basically allowed their anger and their rage to take over and would eventually make them slaves to the Red Lantern Corps. Of course, as we know with that story, which you'll find down in the description, Atrocitus and his forces were defeated, and the result was that it allowed for Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz to go about their business as normal Lanterns. But in the middle of this story arc, we were suddenly met with the arrival of an enigmatic Guardian of the Universe. Now, to provide a little bit of context here, for those of you guys who are new to the mythos, the Guardians of the Universe are really the center point of the entire Green Lantern mythos. Granted, at this point right now, they've all pretty much been destroyed with the exception of Sade and Gantlet, I think. All the other ones are dead, and that of course comes out of the events of Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns and the events leading up to it, which you'll find in the video for Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns down in the description. But the fact remains here that the arrival of this enigmatic Guardian of the Universe was a guy we'd never heard of before. Never before had he ever been seen or mentioned in the entirety of the Green Lantern mythos, so this is a brand new creation by Sam Humphries. And this is really why his run of Green Lanterns works so well, because it's giving us new things. We're learning new things on both sides of the equation. You know, Hal Jordan and the Green Lanterns are wrapping up basically the run of Jeff Johns. It's kind of providing the last tidbits of story arc telling as Robert Venditti's doing it. And then Green Lantern seems to be continuing on from there, giving us an idea of what to expect and how Hal Jordan will basically fold into all this. But the fact remains here that with regards to this Guardian taking off, he had made reference to something called the Phantom Ring. And while he did arrive on Earth looking for Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan was off in space trying to figure out what was going on with the Green Lantern Corps and why they were missing, ultimately the Guardian ran into Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, and again kept sputtering off about this Phantom Ring, but then bailed out before they really had a chance to ask any questions. And so what this does is this picks up with that, and it's basically the hunt for Jessica Cruz, or the hunt by Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz to find this weird or this strange Guardian of the Universe. But what we also learn is they're not the only ones hunting for him. There are also various alien races that seem to have arrived on Earth for the purpose of trying to find this Guardian as well. Now, of course, because of the fact that the Green Lanterns are in and of themselves part and parcel to the Guardians of the Universe, these aliens that are hunting for this rogue Guardian basically just follow Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz because they know that Cruz and Baz are looking for the Guardian. And so the smarter move is to not make their presence known. The smarter move is to follow Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz and then ambush them, potentially destroy them, and then, you know, take over, or I guess grab this Guardian. And so what we do is we, you know, as Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz are going about, you know, trick-or-treating with their families, this is designed to be a masquerade, again, to allow them to continue their hunt by asking various people, have you seen a guy wearing this Halloween costume, so on and so forth. But ultimately, Simon Baz comes to the realization that in order for this person to be able to operate doing whatever it is that they do, while also being aware of their surroundings, they need to travel to a location that has high ground. And what this does is it leads him to realize that this person, this Guardian, has likely traveled travel to the Watchtower. Now from here, we transition to the Watchtower itself, and we pick up with this Guardian, and we basically pick up with the origin of the Phantom Ring, in the sense that, at some point along the line during, I guess, before the destruction of Oa, this Guardian had created a lantern ring that would allow anybody to wield it. And that seems like why it's called the Phantom Ring, because it seems as though maybe it's just I don't know if it takes on the properties of all the other lantern rings or what it does, but what we do know is that it allows anyone to wield it, in the sense that you have to have sufficient willpower. You have to be deemed worthy by a Green Lantern ring. You have to be deemed worthy by a Yellow Lantern ring, by a Red Lantern ring. The rings have to choose you. You can't just go out and grab a Green Lantern ring. If, for example, if someone were to subdue Hal Jordan and they were to put on his ring, it wouldn't work because they don't have sufficient willpower to be able to use it. It's the same reason that we've seen so far Jessica Cruz not being able to wield or not being able to make constructs. She doesn't have the willpower to do it. Now, of course, that's an ongoing plot of her character, and she is being expanded, or it is being expanded on. But we also learn that this Guardian's name is Rami. At least I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's Rami, R-A-M-I, and this is, when he created this Phantom Ring, it was considered to be something that was shunned by the original, Guardians of the Universe. They looked upon this and they said, no, you creating a lantern ring that anyone can wield is gonna lay waste to the entirety of the universe. Now, the reason why this was done, the reason why this is such a big deal, is because when the Guardians of the Universe sat down and they created the Green Lantern Corps, they created them in response to the original iteration of the Manhunters, who went rogue and they went insane, and they ended up, cutting a swath through a large section of the universe before they were finally stopped. The Guardians had come to the realization that as machines, they could be corrupted, they could be screwed up, their programming could be messed with. That's exactly what happened. The former Guardian Krona, who had turned villain, had screwed up the programming of the Manhunters, resulting in them going on a rampage. And so the idea of the Guardians was, okay, then let's have races do it, because if they're sentient, if they are humanoid in some form or fashion, or if they just exist and they have a mind of their own, then that means they likely have empathy. And if they have empathy, then that means that they in turn will care about things. They will want to see the survival and the protection of life. And so the idea was, let's give these rings, let's create these lantern rings, let's charge them with the central power battery, let's give each of them their own battery, and then let's give them a ring and have them protect their own sector. The kicker here was that you had to be selected by the ring again, which was basically a safety measure. It was in order to ensure that a lantern ring wouldn't fall into the hands of a person who would use it for their own ends. Hence the reason why Sinestro was originally banished from the Green Lantern Corps, because he had a daughter. He didn't want to see her raised on such a chaotic planet, and he, instead of using his lantern ring in order to protect the planet or protect his sector, ultimately used his lantern ring to instill fear and to rule over it as a dictator. Now, we do know as well from Jeff Johns' run that the Green Lanterns weren't the only lanterns, that the first group to actually tap into the emotional spectrum and create a lantern ring were the Red Lanterns of Atrocitus, but their rings were bent on rage. And so they were a whole different ball game from what the Guardians of the Universe originally intended. But with regards to having the Green Lanterns as a police force, the idea was to make sure that the rings would only fall in the hands of people who were able to use them effectively. And so because of the fact that Rami had basically made a Phantom Ring that anybody could pick up, it would mean that a person could pick up this ring and turn into a one-man army. Not only that, we don't really know the limits of what this ring is capable of. Is it possible that this ring could dominate all the other rings? If that's the case, then that means anybody could pick up this ring, they could become a Phantom Lantern, they could bend all the other rings to their whim, and they could literally take over the universe. And so, it presents all kinds of different problems. And so because of this, the time came whereby Rami was basically excommunicated and he was banished from the Guardians of the Universe. Now, the idea here seems to be that Rami maybe has a perspective that the Guardians of the Universe don't have. And this is not the first time that's happened, right? Like, there have been instances where Lanterns have sat down and they've said, the Guardians of the Universe don't know everything. And the Guardians of the Universe cannot be trusted implicitly. They have their own motivations, they have their own plans. For example, the Third Army was created in secret by the Guardians of the Universe to replace the Green Lanterns. And so it's not as though the Guardians of the Universe are these altruistic beings that exist to make sure that everyone's happy and everybody's safe. They're manipulative, they're controlling. They're not the best kind of people to run the universe. It's also one of the reasons why Hal Jordan had been at odds with the Guardians of the Universe for quite some time. But the bigger issue here is that the Phantom Ring, as it's been stated by Rami, is as old as the Green Lantern rings, or at least it's almost as old as the Green Lantern rings. And so the implication here is that after the Green Lanterns were created and after the technology was made to craft lantern rings, ultimately it fell to Rami to basically create a lantern ring called the Phantom Ring that would serve this purpose shortly after the Green Lanterns were made. Now, what also seems to be indicated here is that after Rami was banished by the original Guardians of the Universe, he just went into hiding. You know, he basically just took his Phantom Ring with him. Now, we don't know if maybe he was just waiting for someone to come along so that he could give the ring to them. We don't know if he simply just decided to keep it hidden, but whatever the ring or whatever his purpose was, whatever his motivation was, he was basically thrust out. He was more or less moved out after people began to race for the Phantom Ring, after they learned of its existence and began tracking him down. Hence the reason why he came to Earth in search of Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan would have protected him. But at the same time, Hal Jordan is also largely considered to be the greatest of the Green Lanterns. And so most likely what seems to have happened here is Rami had come out of hiding after people began tracking him down, intended to give the Phantom Ring to Hal Jordan to either protect or to use as a Phantom Lantern, and then in turn, you know, whatever happened would have happened. Now, the other half of this is what was going on with Hal Jordan himself, and that's why I'm kind of drawing out this little bit of a theory here is, for those of you guys who don't know, because of the fact that the Green Lanterns had been engaged in so many conflicts over the course of their existence, almost all civilizations in the universe had begun to look at them with a little bit of a glint in their eye, in the sense that they didn't really seem to trust the Green Lanterns as much as they used to. And so the logic of Hal Jordan was, I'll go renegade, I'll make myself the villain, the Green Lanterns can capture me, and then that will restore the reputation of the Green Lanterns. That was the plan of Hal Jordan. The problem with this was that the Green Lanterns vanished before this could happen. That was the entire basis behind the Lost Army, Edge of Oblivion line of stories with regards to the Green Lantern mythos. What likely happened here is word had reached the ears of Rami that Hal Jordan had effectively lost his connection to the Green Lantern Corps. And because of this, he likely decided to give the Phantom Ring to Hal Jordan in order to allow him to wield it to be a lantern once more. I wouldn't say that's absolutely sure, and there's no indication here that that's the case. But the fact remains that the story officially comes to an end. The story basically wraps up with the idea that we're going to be seeing a Phantom Lantern. We're going to be seeing a lantern wielding this Phantom Ring, and the implication seems to be that someone wants this ring, that someone has learned about it, that someone has discovered this, and someone wants to be a Green Lantern. At the same time, the idea also seems to be based or be rooted in the fact that it's the same guy that we had previously seen who was originally offered a Green Lantern ring, but then the Green Lantern ring suddenly determined that he didn't have enough willpower and abandoned him and went and chose Jessica Cruz instead. And so the idea is, at the very least, we're going to be seeing a whole new lantern in the Green Lantern mythos, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm very excited to see. I'm very curious to see what direction this goes in. But with that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end. If you guys are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, become part of the Rob Corps. And if you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like, because I'm certainly digging what's happening right now. And let me know down in the comment section, because I'm kind of curious. Let me know down in the comment section if you could pick anyone from the entirety of the Lantern mythos, whether it's St. Walker, I'm not sure if he's alive or dead. I think he's dead, but whether it's St. Walker, whether it's Atrocitus, Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz, Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, Sinestro, whoever it is that you can think of from the Lantern mythos, or even superheroes from DC in general, if you could pick one of them to wield the Phantom Ring, which one would you pick? And I will catch you guys later. Peace.